Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and this is Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle, your host once again. Please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell and leave a comment. Check out our website at www.legendsofsuperstitionmountains.com. Store is back open. Shirts are available. So we will be getting everything stocked back. Had to change the vendor. Sorry about that. Start saving the date, October 25th, 26th, 27th of this year, 2024, the 20th anniversary of the Dutch Hunters Rendezvous. So we'll start pounding that into everybody as we go through the year. So let's get to this now that we're through all the foolishness and we're past the history's greatest mysteries and back to what we do best. Spencer's Canyon. Now, there's a couple places. Most people think of Spencer's Campground, Spencer's Canyon down near Tucson, back behind the DeGrazia Museum, back there in the mountains. And this isn't in that area. Spencer Canyon, we're going to be referring to, is about 3 miles from the Grand Canyon. It's up in that area. It's near Mirawitica Canyon, okay? And they kind of travel in together and they feed into the Colorado River. This story goes back, it's named after a man named Charlie Spencer. He had a Hualapai wife, and he lived back in there in the middle of nowhere. And his wife and him and children he raised, he was a prospector, but he also raised peach trees. And I believe even today, the peach trees are back in there. The Hualapai tribe would actually sold fruit from that grove that he planted back in those days. So named after Charlie Spencer. If you go out there and you're interested in this treasure, you have to get permission from the tribal authorities and have to have a permit to go out there because this is now part of the Hualapai Reservation. So that being said and done, the story begins with a man named Lee Johnson. Now, a lot of people have been out in that area looking for gold. It has a little history, nothing monumental. And Lee Johnson's back in Spencer Canyon. He's working his way back into town, heading for Kingman, and he's out of grub. He's pretty much spent the last few months up in the mountains, and as he's working in, the water is running up into the canyon, and it's running pretty good. And it had been a storm, and everything had been moved through there. And as he was working through with his burros, he's looking back, checking on them, making sure they're okay, and because they'll lose their footing, and he's just checking to make sure everything's good, because we can go back to the Al Center story. If that burro goes over, you might go with it, you and your horse. So he's working his way, and something catches his eye, and he looks over, and he's like, what is that? What am I seeing through the water reflect over there? And he's looking, and he's checking it out, and then he goes, well, I'm going to go check that out. So he works his way across, goes to the spot, and he finds that all the rock and all the gravel and everything has washed to bedrock in that area. And he looks at it and looks at it, and he finds there's this little vein of gold running through the rock. He says it's pretty good vein. He takes note of it, starts taking particular note of everything in the area, making mental notes, looking across about where he's at and everything involved and to do with it. There's a few prominent landmarks, I guess, in the area. Works his way out. For what reason, we don't know. But he was older, and he never returned to the spot. For whatever reason, he has a friend in Kingman, and the man's name is George Musser. And George and him are friends. George does some prospecting. He also works as a carpenter, and he has a photography studio in Kingman. And they sit around, and Lee will tell him stories about stuff. And he tells him about the spot. Starts telling George, I'm sorry I never got back to that spot, but there's a good vein of gold running through that rock. I don't know what it's going to look like. It's been a while. But you need to go back and probably get that. You probably find yourself some good gold. So George's intrigued. We don't know how long he waited till after Lee had passed away. So George decides in 1921 to make his first trip. And he makes his trip out, and he locates where he thinks the area is. He said the landmarks, everything in detail is there and in place. So he goes out to the spot, and he finds tons of rock, and everything has just literally buried this spot. So whether it was erosion or just some landslide, so he spends several months just trying to clear this area out, and he just realizes there's not a lot he can do in this position. So after spending a few months there, goes back to normal routine. But in 1922, he returns with 4 men. And they come out, and he tells them the story and says, look, this vein's good enough. We can all work this area. And they start working. They brought a little bit of timber and start timbering up a little bit of a frame around where they're going to start digging. And they start going down through this stuff, trying to keep the rock from falling in and working their way down something of a pit through this rock. And it was very difficult because there's a lot of large rocks, but a lot of these rocks, you start moving one from one spot and everything starts dropping down in. One of the problems we have with the spiral staircase is if you try to move stuff, you can tell where guys didn't move stuff because everything else starts collapsing in on itself. But they work and they get down about 8-10 feet, and then they hit water. And they realize they're down probably close to where they want to be, but there's too much water. It's filling up too fast. They can't dig and work in there. And it's 3 feet, then 4 feet, then 5 feet. And they realize, okay, so they've kind of got down where they need. They have to be close to the bedrock, but they've used up their supplies. They've been out there for a few months, all this hard work, but they make a plan and said, we'll come back next season and we're going to bring a pump. So the following year in 1923, they return again. And they start digging, and they're digging out, and they got a pump, and they're pumping water, and they get down to 18 feet in this rock and rubble, and they're putting this collar in, and they're just working their way through. Musser said it was just dangerous stuff because stuff's caving in. He took some photographs. There are some photos. They're not very good. It's the 1920s. But him and some of the other individuals involved in their camp, and there is an old pic photograph of the collar that they built. And he said we kept digging down, and finally the water started coming in, and the pump wouldn't keep it out, and Musser almost drowns. Because of the distance he's down, they have a difficult time trying to get him back out. He's the last man to come out, and he barely makes it out. At this point, they realize with the rock and everything else involved in this, they've not found the bedrock. They've not found this exposed vein. They're kind of a little shook and confused on it. They know they're in the right spot. How much debris has fallen into this area, they can't believe. They don't understand. So they move down, and they try to dig an inclined tunnel or start digging in to kind of intercept the area. Figure maybe they'll clear an area and be able to do it that way. They do that for quite some time, and they never find anything. Musser says he has no idea. He told the story to a number of people, and I believe it was in the 70s, and said they just were not able to get anywhere. A number of people went out to the same similar area. From what I know, nobody found any placer or anything else interconnected, but he said there was no reason for Lee Johnson was just being nice and was talking and say, hey, I'm too old, but there's this one spot you really should check out, see if you can clear it out, because I regret I never went back to that spot. So somewhere out there in Spencer Canyon, by the Grand Canyon, there is a spot. Who knows if the collared timbers are there still or if everything's buried again. I'm sure someone could find something relevant to that. But again, you have to get the Hualapai permission to do so. So there you go. There's our story, this Lost Spencer Canyon vein. And pretty interesting story. I find those kind of stories interesting because there's a number of those associated in the superstitions too, where weather has revealed something and then covered it back up. And that's probably what happened in this instance. And there's a good chance that vein of gold is still down there somewhere in Spencer Canyon. So if you get a chance, you got the permit, go take a trip, go take a look around. Maybe you'll find that spot, find something from their old camp. They spent a few years out there and a few months each year. you got to be sure that they left some debris somewhere. So you well, maybe it washed out, but you should be able to find something. So there you are, the Spencer Canyon Lost Vein. And if you find it, hey, you might really find something, but you might have to split it with the tribal authorities. So there you go. Again, remember the rendezvous, October 25th, 26th, 27th. It's the 20th anniversary. Go check out the shirts, same style. We're trying to decide what we'll do. We got stickers going to come, but we're going to be setting up for the 20th anniversary of the rendezvous. We'll have shirts just designated for that. Probably won't have those online at first. I'm thinking we'll just have those actually at the rendezvous. So it's something kind of special for the people that attend at that time. All right, so I hope everybody's well. We're enjoying the 1-teens here in Arizona, sunny and bright. I think this morning at 8 o'clock it was 90 some odd degrees, so there's no such thing as cool now till probably October. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Chasing Legends. And always remember the most important thing here today. You can say it with me. I'm Wayne Tuttle. You're not. And this was Chasing Legends.